And good evening, everyone. We are back on the Roberta Hornet channel. I know it's been a little bit of a long time, but I've been a busy man at uni, I can't lie. It's been great. I've actually really enjoyed second year so far. The University of Lincoln is 100% the best uni of all time. So anyone else that says any different, they're lying. Absolutely. It's the best place. Lincoln is so brilliant, and yeah, it's the best course. Like, I'm loving sports journalism. It's obviously helping my future career, trying to get into the football industry. I'd like to then go on and do some football commentating. That would be amazing if I can get into that. But just generally working with Lincoln City's media team, doing stuff with Lincoln United. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. And I've also been doing a podcast. Now, we're actually 3 episodes into the podcast. So if you don't already know, go out on Spotify and check out the podcast. It's called The Form is Temporary Podcast with my good mate at uni, Chris Sebastian. And we've been really enjoying it so far. We even just got in our own producer for the podcast. So it's getting all high tech and professional, really. So yeah, we're really excited about it. Episode 3 just dropped on Wednesday night. So do give a listen to my episode 3, or our episode 3, ahead of the Game Week 9 deadline, which is, of course, 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. So, yeah, do give a little listen to that. Let me know any feedback. I hope you enjoyed it. Because, yeah, as we say, we're really enjoying filming those at the moment. Current news regarding FPL. I will be bringing out my FPL deadline stream at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So get following my YouTube, FPL Yellow Army, to make sure you watch that. And hoping that maybe at some point the FPL Juice Boys, their brilliant stream, the Juiceception, they might be able to hop onto my stream for a bit of theirs. If not, they have got big other content creators, so it's not a problem if they can't hop onto mine. But on my channel at least, FPL Yellow Army, check that out. But yes, there is a bit of FPL in the air a little bit at the moment, because with the big rain that's come on Friday, it's absolutely poured it down everywhere, especially in the kind of Lincolnshire, Nottingham area. And so it does beg the question, will that Nottingham Forest Luton game be postponed? Because there's heavy rain. Now, some pictures flying around is fake news, because it was pictures from a game back in 2019 against Reading. So that's absolute waffle. But a few people have said, despite all of this, the fact it's a Premier League club and Forest have installed something like a 2 million investment to help with the pitch and to stop it from being waterlogged. Of course, when it's Forest, which is obviously the River Trent, the banks are going to get high, and so things could maybe lead to the game getting called off. It's not guaranteed. It's a 50-50 call. But if you have any Forest or Luton players, then be wary. I've got a bit of a headache because I'll get on to talk about it in my video tomorrow. But yeah, we'll have to see how that one develops. Also, possible news of the Brentford keeper, Mark Flecken. He was out with appendicitis and what felt like was going to be out for a few weeks. But apparently Thomas Frank said it looks good for him to start. So he'll probably will start, I would imagine, after what Frank has said. But yeah, one to watch for sure. And so yeah, that's interesting. But there'll be plenty more team news and discussion on that video at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So yeah, do tune in for that. Turn on that notification bell. But talking of waterlogged pitches, this may be an issue for the game tonight. Rotherham United against Ipswich Town. Because we know that Rotherham have had problems like this in the past, where they had a game, their pitch doesn't have that undersoil heating, and it got waterlogged and cooled off. So, I would be worried for Ipswich Town fans travelling to that game thinking, let's get there. Will it go ahead, though? We have not got any confirmation from the EFL, as far as I'm aware, about whether or not that game does go ahead or not. But based on previous, I wouldn't be surprised if it did get called off. So I'm going to predict it just because we haven't got anything from the EFL yet about whether or not that game goes ahead. I would imagine it does. But we'll have to see, right? Whether or not the rain has kind of stopped a bit sooner than it has certainly in Lincoln, because it keeps pouring down at the moment. Maybe it's dried up a little bit in Rotherham, so we might be okay. But I don't know. There's a chance. So I'll predict it anyway. Rotherham United. Now, obviously, last week in the Championship, there were some interesting results. A Cardiff City 1, Watford 1 result, which, to be honest, we should have won that game. Let's be honest. We had chance after chance that we did not take. And then we concede from McGuinness. And you just think that's just typical Watford defending. And then we have that goal for Vacuum Bio, which, to be honest, I'm happy to see Bio's back in the goals the last few weeks. But the fact was, that was a goal given on a plate to him. So I'm just relieved he got his goal, but he does need to be a bit more a bit more conviction in front of goal. But obviously, the likes of Mileta Rajovic has been really good since he's come in from, I think it's Brondby, if I remember. It might be another Danish side. I've forgotten, to be honest. But yeah, look, ultimately, Watford, we've stopped the rot of defeats, right? We have been in quite bad form, but what I've been encouraged by this season is the performances are there in most games we've had this season. It's just we're not finding ways to get 3 points. And that is a bit of a concern, especially with the fixtures coming up. These are games on paper that are very winnable. But as I mentioned, we haven't been getting the results. And so they're actually kind of 6-pointers, really, when you look at it. Because where we are in the table, I'm sorry, not Brondby, it was Kalmar from Rajovic. But yeah, these are games that actually are teams around us, right? Because yes, it's very early on in the season, right? It's only 11 weeks in, but as it stands, we are in the mud, right? But I would say, as I said, performances have suggested more. We're currently placed 20th, which is, to be fair, not terrible when you think there's a lot of teams on like 11, 10 points. Like, teams like Plymouth, who started the season really well, are up there with 11. So I think it's not an absolute nightmare, but it's obviously not ideal. And it's ironic after we give a contract extension, which is a very rare thing for a Watford manager, for Valérien Ismaël, which I think was the right decision, to be honest, because I've been to the training ground this season, and ultimately the off-the-pitch atmosphere is much, much better than it was. Last few seasons, we've had a problem in the dressing room. There's been players in the squad, too many bad eggs, and a few players that have just been too big for their boots. And the managers have just not been interested, really, and there's been a lack of intensity in training. I saw the complete opposite of that when I went to see them train ahead of that game away at Stoke, a few weeks ago. So ultimately, I look at it and think I'm happy with how the club is progressing off the pitch. We have let go of our technical director, Ben Manga, which, to be honest, is a strange one. But I understand it, right? If Valérien Ismaël's not getting on with him, I'm happy for him to cut ties, because at least Valérien Ismaël is being transparent. We've had Watford managers in the past where they've faked it till they make it, and they don't often make it. So we need to have transparency. We need everyone on board and in the same direction. And if that's not just down to personal preference the case, then I'm happy for those sort of things to change. But at the same time, I see the argument. It's a weird one. If we're backing the manager, surely you back the whole kind of body of the club. But we'll have to see how that ends up going. Obviously, Helena Costa was with Ben Manga, so they probably have now gone, both of them. So interested to see who we go for if we get anyone else in, because at the moment we've still got somehow, yes, believe it or not, I don't know how he's still here, but Cristiano Gioretta, who, to be honest, has been the bit of a figure of controversy in the past with some of the things that he's put on social media and just generally his style. I mean, he's very intimidating, quite a presence, but he, in terms of recruitment, I don't know, he's had a bit of backlash. So I wonder whether he is the right man to lead us forward in that side of the field and that side of the team, but I don't know. We'll have to see. I do trust in Valérien, though, and I really love his mentality, his attitude to helping the players. And with Valérien, I think his style is very get to know the players and really get to know them on a deeper level. And I think that is perfect to have that team cohesion and chemistry that we have been lacking for probably about 6 seasons now, which is depressing to say. Of course, that season we got promoted under Cisco Munoz. That kind of team spirit was there, but it's been a while since we've really shown consistently playing well. And as I say, performances pretty good this season, but we do need to find ways of letting them out, stopping them from going in at the back of the net, because we've not got a lot of clean sheets this season, and that is why we are sat where we are in 20th spot. But yeah, just to go back to that Rotherham Ipswich game, those are two teams that haven't been incredible. I mean, look, Ipswich, I actually know, I do have to say Ipswich have been unreal, and that's why they are second. But no, what I was going to say was, but previous seasons, you would have said Ipswich were a team pretty beatable. Certainly, you say that's the case now for Rotherham because they have started the season really, really poorly and in 23rd. So, Watford's next two fixtures, Sheffield Wednesday, right, and Swansea, who Swansea are okay at the moment, sat in 12th spot. But, you know, you look at that, 24th place for Sheffield Wednesday. They're rooted at the bottom of the table. You know, it's a 3-point gap to Rotherham. And they are, you know, just bringing in their new manager, Sheffield Wednesday, the youngest manager, actually, in the EFL. So that'll be very intriguing, I'll be honest, to see who, you know, Danny Roll goes for in that Sheffield Wednesday lineup. But the referee for Watford's game with the Owls has been appointed, and it's one of the EFL's most experienced referees. So hopefully that will help us. It's Dean Whitestone, so we'll have to see. He actually officiated his first Football League game back in 2005. So, yeah, okay, not too bad. He was in charge of 2 Hornets matches last season, the 0-0 draw at home to Hull City, so hopefully not another 0-0, because I always seem to come back from uni to go to this Sheffield Wednesday game. I always come back to a Watford game that's 0-0, but also the 2-0 victory over Bristol City back in April, and that was actually my last game before I had to head back to uni at the end of last season, when in a season that, you know, nothing was looking good and the season was done by that point. But look, it was not a good season last season. This season, I don't know. It's going to be a project. It's a process with Valérien Ismaël. And I'm willing more this season to just let this season pass by, as long as then we put ourselves in a position to go for promotion next season. But what we've got back from Watford is an identity, a style of play, and a manager that the players seem to trust in and you know, really like. So hopefully these are all positive things. But Rotherham against Ipswich, if it goes ahead, I will go for a Rotherham defeat here, because Ipswich have been superb this season. One man who's really doing well for Ipswich is Connor Chaplin. So I think if it goes ahead, I'll say Rotherham United 1, Ipswich Town 3. Now it's Preston against Millwall. Now, Preston against Millwall, this is an intriguing clash, I think, because on their day, Millwall can be a very, very good side. This season, though, it's not exactly clicked for the Lions, and they've not had that, you know, tempo or that bite in their attack that they would have wanted. So I look at this and think this is an opportunity for Preston. Obviously, Preston started the season really, really well, been the kind of season's underdog so far, and I've just got to give them a lot of credit. I did not see it coming at all, but they lost last time out to Ipswich, which to be honest was a great game. They lost that game before against Leicester, and then the game before. So Preston perhaps on a little bit of a slump, but this is a game I think Millwall will struggle in. So I'll go for a nervy Preston victory, 1-0 to Preston North End. Then we've got Blackburn Rovers against Cardiff City. Now, I think this is a game that Blackburn should be fairly comfortable in. I know that Cardiff have looked good at points this season, and you know, you look at the table and look at the fact that Cardiff are well above Blackburn. But with the home advantage, I mean, Cardiff, look, their form has been really good. That's mainly been down to the inclusion of Aaron Ramsey in their side, who's really, you know, changed their fortunes. And Cardiff have got some good results this season. Obviously, as I say, getting the point last time out against Watford. You know, they had that win against Sunderland, which was really impressive, beating Coventry. So, yeah, fair play to Cardiff. They've really come out this season and done well. But I just think Blackburn, they're going to be licking their wounds a little bit from some of the results recently. I mean, I think they're still a very, very good side, Blackburn. So I can't imagine this will be a thing that carries on for Blackburn Rovers. Obviously, a fantastic win last time out against QPR, and I think that's the sort of result that should, hopefully for them, change their season. So I'll say Blackburn Rovers 2, Cardiff City 1. Okay, now we've got Bristol City versus Coventry. Now, for this one, I genuinely believe that Bristol City have been, I don't know, how do I put this? Very bang average, and Coventry have been a bit below par on what we'd expect them to do this season. Like, I thought Coventry would be up there, challenging for promotion. Obviously, it's only 11 games in, so not much to read into it. Obviously, Coventry finishing in the final in the last time in the playoffs. But I don't know. I just think this is a bit of a 0-0 written all over it, to be honest. I think this could be a bit of a cagey one. So I'll say exactly that. Bristol City 0, Coventry 0. Oh, yep, I've just got news. It's confirmed. Rotherham versus Ipswich is off. So my prediction is being crossed out as we speak. That game has been called off. Just breaking news. So EFL, not ideal really, because kickoff was 8 o'clock and at 5:15 they've just confirmed it. So if anyone set off early for that, they will be disappointed. I tell you, Rotherham United, sort out your undersoil heating. It's not good enough, alright? I know that there's been rain today, but it's got to be better for a championship side, surely. Anyway, alright, that game is off. So we start with that Preston game. 1-0 Preston against Millwall was my prediction. 2-1 Blackburn against Cardiff. 0-0 Bristol City against Coventry. Next up, it's Huddersfield against QPR. Now, Huddersfield, for me, are a team that, last season just about stayed up thanks to the magic man Neil Warnock, who's since retired. Now, obviously, Huddersfield have had a few issues, a few players leaving, which hasn't been ideal for them, but it's still been a pretty underwhelming start to the season. When you think about some of the good players they have got in their side, they're facing a QPR side, though, that genuinely are concerning because under the management of, look, let's be honest, he's not a bad manager, is he? He's got ability, and, the QPR side, I look at it and think, it's not the end of the world, but Gareth Ainsworth has just been struggling at the moment, and I just don't know where QPR can really get this rejuvenated, moment of turning their season around, because people are saying, oh, how long until the QPR manager's sacked? Well, funnily enough, the opponents for QPR this week, we know Huddersfield have that new manager bounce with Darren Moore. And I think Darren Moore, since he's come into Huddersfield, has actually done a really good job of getting Huddersfield those results and doing fairly well. So I think this will be a game that QPR will actually really struggle with. I think Huddersfield have been better recently. I know they're still, as I say, down there in the table, but you look at the manager's impact on the team since he's come in. It was a really good point against Coventry. Okay, actually, really good point against Ipswich. So that's 2 successive. Obviously, Birmingham was a bit of a blow, and then a bit of a disappointment to not beat Sheffield Wednesday for Huddersfield. So kind of a mixed bag, really. But generally, they've not been that easy to beat, which obviously before Darren Moore came in was very much... well, actually, it's funny, I look at it now. The games just before Darren Moore came in were point against Stoke, winning against Rotherham, winning against West Brom. So actually, the last few games under Neil Warnock were quite good. But then, before that, obviously, they've had big defeats to Norwich, losing to Leicester, losing to Plymouth. There's been some bad results. But ultimately, I still feel this Huddersfield side are in need of a pick-me-up, and I think this is the sort of game QPR defensively have not been great. So I'll say Huddersfield Town 2, QPR 0. Okay, next up, we've got Hull City against Southampton. Now, this game I feel will be interesting because this season I have not really rated Southampton. Like, they've got some goals, fair enough, Adam Armstrong and Stuart Armstrong more recently, but their defence this season under, the management of, Russell Martin's not a bad manager, but he just doesn't excite me, to be honest. He looks like he's struggling to get teams into those promotion places and often is going to be around mid-table, and that's pretty much where Southampton are right now, in 10th spot. But they go to the KCOM Stadium, and I think Hull are a decent team. They've got good players, good manager, so Hull in 9th place. This could be a tight match, but I'm backing Hull here, I think, just based on Southampton's recent defensive record. I've just not been impressed by them. They've got goals at the other end, sure, but I feel like this is the sort of game that they could leak some more results and more goals, I should say. And, not beating Rotherham last time out was really poor for Southampton. So, they did beat Leeds heavily and obviously got the winner up at Stoke. But then before that, you saw losses against Middlesbrough, Ipswich, and a heavy one against the likes of Sunderland and Leicester. So I just don't quite know what you're going to get with Southampton at the moment. But I think with Hull's home advantage, Hull, I just think they've got a lot of good players that can do results. Adama Traore's got ability, obviously not the Adama Traore from Fulham. You've got Ozan Tufan, who, when he's fit, is always good. Liam Delap, obviously, has been really, really good, especially for the England under-21s, I do believe. And then Aaron Connolly as well. He's really fitting into that role. Jaden Philogene, what a player he is. And Scott Twine as well. So look, some good little talents there for Hull. I think it will be a 2-1 victory for the Tigers. Now, it's Middlesbrough versus Birmingham City. Now, this is a game that I feel Birmingham should, on paper, win comfortably, because Middlesbrough have really struggled this season. Obviously, recently, it's not been too bad. I mean, they've picked it up a little bit. They were looking like they were going to be bottom 3 at one point this season, but they're in 16th now. They've gone up a little bit, and so there's been a bit more of an improvement, but generally, yeah, it's still not been a great start to the season. Obviously, the win against Sunderland, to win 4-0 against your, Tyne-Wear Derby, rivals is exactly what you want to, get that momentum. And I do really rate Michael Carrick as a manager. And, they beat, obviously, Watford more recently. That was just a shambolic defeat from us. And beating Cardiff as well. So, look, Middlesbrough have turned their fortunes around, and a good win against Southampton as well. And so they face a side here in Birmingham who, really good start to the season. I cannot understand them sacking John Eustace, because I felt that they were doing really well under his management. So what the thinking was behind that, I'm not quite sure. But guess who's come in? Yes, it is Wayne Rooney from DC United, which, to be honest, I just do not rate at all. I mean, look, John Eustace was doing really well. I think Rooney's a massive downgrade for the Blues, but, Birmingham City, they've done what they need to do. Let's see how Rooney gets on. But, I mean, there's talking about, salary rumours. I don't know whether that's a motivating factor for Wayne, but I still don't rate this decision from the Blues. I will say, though, Middlesbrough will get a point here. I think they will be competitive enough to have a good game. I'll say Middlesbrough 1, Birmingham City 1. Now, it's Norwich against Leeds. Now, this actually is quite an exciting game because it's two teams in the top 10 who have got, of course, great squads still. They've had to leave a few players out of their team and let a few players go, what with their relegations last season. So I look at it and think, obviously, I say relegations. Norwich obviously was the season before last, but Leeds was last season. So I don't know. I do think Norwich are very good, especially at Carrow Road, and that's where they'll be for this Saturday kickoff. Leeds have had a bad start to the season. Recently, though, they have picked it up, obviously beating Watford. You see this trend, right? All these teams that aren't in great form, they face Watford, and it's a guaranteed 3 points. So that's why we've been quite frustrating so far recently. But good win against Watford. Then obviously beating Bristol City last week. There's a bit of momentum there for Leeds at the moment. So especially at home, obviously this is a bit of a trickier game though. So I think Norwich will just get a narrow victory. I've been really impressed by what Daniel Wagner has done there. They're looking really good. They're playing good stuff, and the likes of Gabriel Sara and many more, Rowe as well. They've been scoring goals and doing really well. So on current form, you'd probably have said a Leeds win with 3 wins in their last 5. But I think the home advantage will play dividends, and I'll go for Norwich City 3, Leeds United 2 in an absolute humdinger of a match. Now, it's Stoke against Sunderland. Obviously, this was a Premier League fixture a few years back, quite a few years actually now, back in 2016, 17 or whatever. But still, I think this game, Stoke obviously haven't had the good start to the season they would have wanted, and so they're sat actually below Watford in 21st. I just don't understand it, because Alex Neil, I still feel, is a very decent manager. But you know what? It happens, right? Some clubs have this, and they just go through bad spells. Now, Sunderland, obviously, they've been really impressive once again this season. Despite no Amad Diallo for them, they've just done well to get results and score goals. And Jack Clark has just been an absolute sensation. Also, some of their players, chipping in with goals like Bradley Dack, Joe Bellingham, what a player he could be. Not quite the level of Jude at the moment with his exploits for Real Madrid and incredible in the international break for England. But Joe Bellingham is certainly one to watch. He could well be in the Euros or World Cup, let's say in 2028, alongside his brother. But yeah, watch out for Joe because he's done some really good stuff. And then of course Jack Clarke is just absolutely unreal. So look, they've got a very good side, Sunderland. The likes of Mason Burstow as well can come in for them when they need him. They've got Patrick Roberts as well. They're stacked with options, Sunderland, and it's good to see. Sunderland, a team obviously before last season, in previous season, they were struggling to really, be a big force and get those, goals and returns and things. But their defenders as well looking pretty good, like the likes of Daniel Ballard and Dennis Kirkin. He's obviously come in from Spurs and he's done well. Former Watford boy, of course, Luke O'Nien. So there's some good players there for Sunderland. But yeah, what I will say is, generally, this will be a game that on paper you would say Sunderland win, but you just never know, right? With Stoke, they could show up a good performance. They had a pretty bad run of form, and I'll say it again, they played Watford, and then they beat us, and that was at a time when we were playing really well. So Sunderland can, sometimes surprise us. Stoke also can sometimes surprise us. But this time around, I am going to go for Sunderland. I think they will just have too much quality for this Stoke City side. So I will go for Stoke City 0, Sunderland 2. Okay, next up. Sorry about this. Just went down the wrong hole there. It's Swansea City against Leicester City. Now, this game is interesting. Obviously, Leicester flying high, top of the league. What a team. What a manager as well, can I just say. Just fair play for Leicester, bringing in a very experienced, manager in Enzo Maresca, and he's just done so well for them. And so they're top of the table for that reason. Only 2 points above Ipswich, but it's looking like those are the two really that are going for it at the top of the table. On the other hand, we look at a team in the likes of Swansea, who really have been not ideal this season. But yeah, they've rested it back a little bit the last few weeks, sitting in 12th spot. The defence has been a bit of an issue though, so I wonder, how many will they concede here? I mean, a good win up at Plymouth last time. Obviously, beating Norwich was a big scalp for them, but I don't think those sort of wins will happen again. They're in good form, Swansea. I have to give them that, but Leicester side are looking incredible at the moment. So I will say a fairly comprehensive Leicester City victory. We'll go for Swansea City 0, Leicester City 3. Now, it's Watford versus Sheffield Wednesday, a 3 o'clock kickoff. Come on, you Horns. Now, of course, this is a game that we will, on paper, 100% lose, because this is what Watford do, right? We have, Leeds United. All right, that's a bad example. We have, let me think of a good one. I don't know. Let's think of it. There's basically no game this season that we've won where you'd expect us to lose, really. Let's try and think of our wins this season. This is the problem, right? As I say, we've played well in games, but we've lost a lot of games where we should have won, to the point where I've actually forgotten who we've beaten this season. So that is why we're sat in 20th. But as I say, it's early days. Don't start getting panicked. As I say, trust the process under Valorant. But yeah, in terms of our results this season, in terms of our wins this season, it was just really early on, wasn't it? It was that win against Birmingham, the win against QPR on the opening day, and that's it. So, yeah, it's only been 2 wins, which, like I said, the performances have suggested more than that. And you look at Birmingham, actually, when we played Birmingham, they were in incredible unbeaten form. So that is maybe a bit of a scout. But what I'm saying is, the Watford way, as we've said earlier in the video, is play a team who's in bad form. That's a guaranteed win for the opposition. So I just pray, Watford, we don't do this again. Please, we have to be winning this fixture home against Sheffield Wednesday, who are the lowest side down in the dumps. Now, the only thing with this, of course, is with the new manager coming in, I hope there's no new manager bounce from our perspective. But we'll have to see. Obviously, if Sheffield Wednesday are a side that denied us a title back in 2015 when we thought we were going to get it after we got promoted back to the Premier League with that iconic Mate Vidra goal back up at Brighton, and then of course that swing of result, Fulham getting the goal for McCormack against Middlesbrough. But yeah, that was an incredible moment. But when we thought we could get the title and then Sheffield Wednesday equalised, I think it was Nuhu, in the last minute, and then Bournemouth go and win the league. It was hard to take, and obviously now Bournemouth being in the league and us not, it's even harder to take. But you know what? Andre Iraola, he's not Andone, I should say, not Andre Andone. He's not exactly got Bournemouth firing on all cylinders this season. So maybe if we can, just have a good season, consolidate, get promoted in the 24-25 season, then maybe if Bournemouth get relegated this season, we could say goodbye and hasta la vista to Bournemouth for the 25-26 season. But that's wishful thinking, isn't it? So I don't know. I think we should win this though. Surely the quality on our pitch is so much, superior to Sheffield Wednesday's. They ultimately do have a League One quality squad, and that's why they're struggling so much. But I felt for it because Xisco Munoz, great man, and should he have been sacked? I don't think so. I don't think he was the problem. I think genuinely it's the squad that Sheffield Wednesday have got which is the issue, and they just didn't get back to them in the market. Obviously, Darren Moore was there before. I think they should have just kept him because they had a connection to the fans. He was a decent manager, and maybe he would have got back to the window. But when they bring in, Sheffield Wednesday, all right, Xisco's been brilliant for us, but it's a big change in terms of squad quality and a manager who has not been in the league for a couple of years. Obviously, since that time at Watford, he was a bit like a rabbit in headlights, and that's fair enough. So I don't blame Xisco. I think it's unlucky on his part. But yeah, this is obviously interesting. New manager. Can we silence the Owls? I think we can. We'll say Watford 3, Sheffield Wednesday 1, because we literally never keep clean sheets. Even if it's a comprehensive win, we'll concede at the last minute. Anyway, let's move on from that one. We've got... before we do, I'll say 3-1. Goal scorers... Who are we going to go for? I think, by the way, talking of goal scorers, my Gaffer Championship Fantasy team is locked in for Matchweek 12, and I actually have 2 Watford players in my team. You know what I've just realised as well is that one of my defenders, Ballard for Sunderland, has now picked up an injury, but I've already made my transfer, so that's a bit annoying. But it's fine. He was on my bench anyway. But why does this keep happening? Like I keep making changes, and then basically my new players get injured. So yeah, it's annoying. Anyway, we move. The current team, we've got Hazard in goal for Plymouth, back 3 of Pring for Bristol City, Furlong for West Brom against Plymouth. I mean, I'm kind of hoping for a 0-0 in that West Brom game, I can't lie. That's about what we're about to predict. So I think I might have spoiled it there. We also got Hill for Blackburn against Cardiff, hoping for a decent result for Blackburn. I mean, I did say 2-1, but let's hope for a Blackburn clean sheet. That is my transfer this week. Hill has come in for Hughes for Preston because he's definitely injured, so it won't be facing Millwall. But I also then predicted a Preston clean sheet, so maybe that was a bit, not ideal for my luck there. But anyway, midfield we've got Somerville, who to be honest has been really good this season for Leeds. I think he's done quite well. I brought him in, I think, was it last week? Yeah, it was, game week 11, and he got 15 points. So absolute legend. Not an easy fixture this week against Norwich, but that's the reason I've benched my backup keeper in Angus Gunn. Loser is there as well, home to Sheffield Wednesday. Hopefully he can whip in another worldie from 20 yards like he did against QPR. Sarah is there as well. He's emergency captain if all goes, all hell breaks loose. He's got a home fixture at least. Leeds have not been exactly the tightest of defences. But my captaincy is on Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. I know, I don't like to do it, a former Luton player, but he's, seen sense, moved to Leicester, and Leicester are flying, and they've got Swansea away, who, have picked up a bit recently, but on paper, still a good fixture, I think, for a few goals for KDH. And then vice-captaincy on Jack Clark. I think he could have been my captain with how bad Stoke have been and how good Sunderland have been. But I just slightly prefer Dewsbury Hall this week, I think. Then we got Rajvic and Adam Armstrong up front. Not a bad front two, I think. Hopefully Rajvic can get back in the goals against Sheffield Wednesday. I think Bio might play more minutes, though, because as I say, he's picked up a bit of form recently. But I can't imagine he would bench Rajvic. I'd be very unlucky if that happened. But if so, I've got Hardy first on bench for Plymouth. Although that is the game that I want to finish 0-0 with Furlong in my team. So, yeah, it's not the most ideal thing. But anyway, Armstrong as well. We've got Hull, who, to be honest, I think Hull will probably win that. But you know how good Armstrong can be. And then, yeah, the bench is Gunn, Hardy, Perry, NG, who's got Blackburn away. And then third on bench, injured, Ballard away to Stoke. So, yeah, those are my picks for Gaffer Championship Fantasy for match week, or game week, I should say, number 12. But let's finally predict West Brom against Plymouth. Now, you know how I want this game to end. Do I actually think it will end? Probably. I think it could. It could be a 1-1, could be a 0-0. But yeah, basically, I think Plymouth this season have been a bit of a weird team. Like, at times, they've been really good. At other times, I don't know, they're a decent side, Plymouth, but their defence has been a bit sketchy, really. So West Brom can definitely score in this game. I don't know, something about West Brom, I'm just never that enthralled. I mean, look, they've got decent players. They've got the likes of Brandon Thomas Asante, and obviously they've let go of Carlin Grant, which, you know, he's done quite well at Cardiff, but yeah, they are struggling a little bit for goals, West Brom, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I feel this could be genuinely a draw. So I will go for a 0-0. It's optimistic just for my fantasy team, but I'm going to go for a 0-0. So that's, yeah, 2 0-0s predicted this weekend. So just quickly rounding up the predictions, we've gone with Preston 1, Millwall 0, Blackburn 2, Cardiff 1, Bristol City 0, Coventry 0, Huddersfield 2, QPR 0, Hull 2, Southampton 1, Middlesbrough 1, Birmingham City 1, Norwich 3, Leeds 2, Stoke 0, Sunderland 2, Swansea 0, Leicester 3. Nice little Dewsbury Hall hat-trick there, please. Then we've got Watford 3, Sheffield Wednesday 1, and goal scorers in that one. I think Watford to score first with a strike from Imran Louza. Go on then, on 25 minutes. By the way, this is my birthday weekend, so can I just say, Watford, you better win for my birthday. Give me a little treat ahead of my birthday on Sunday. That would be very nice. So yeah, then the equaliser, actually, I do think will come in from Sheffield Wednesday, and it'll be a goal from really their main man, their talisman, I think, most of the time. It is, of course, that guy who's got the dad, who scored that famous goal, that famous championship goal. You're thinking, who am I even talking about here? But trust me, you know who I'm on about. It is, of course, the legend, the man, the myth, the legend, Josh Windass. So yeah, Windass will equalise on, let's say, 41 minutes, because that was probably is what's going to happen, because Watford always concede right before half-time. But then Watford come out firing in the second half and get the win with goals from, first of all, Mileta Rajovic on 65 minutes. And then the third for the Hornets, I think, will come from the legend, that is Jamal Lewis, on 89 minutes. Those are my predictions for match week number 12. I've also said West Brom 0, Plymouth 0, by the way. Don't forget that Rotherham Ipswich has been postponed, so don't predict that in the comment section below. But get everything else in, all of the other 11 matches, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.